Hi, guys. Welcome. Welcome to Found and Free. I'm here with my co-hosts, Bobbi and Nicole, and we have a special guest for you guys today. We have Chris, which is actually Bobbi's brother. So
yes, he did.
We got to unpack some rivalry, some childhood rivalry.
It's not really Chris and I. It's all Daniel. So sure, we can unpack
That's
that.
probably true.
Well, we always hear how perfect you are. The other day, Callie and her were like, well, we know if we get on a plane with Chris that it's not going to go down because God
won't take his perfect child.
We
Don't
did.
say that because now next time I get on a plane.
The Lord's like, well, I guess I got to show him.
No, we don't want to say that.
And your mom kind of sometimes references you as her favorite child, too. So.
She did. In front, she was like, yes, he is my favorite. And she told all the stories about Daniel.
Don't care.
And they were rolling, like whenever Daniel would be like, come tuck me in as a senior.
yeah.
And she's like, finally, I would get out of bed because he wouldn't stop yelling. She's like, I'd go downstairs and I'd go tuck, tuck, tuck. And he'd say, you're a good mother tucker.
I literally, my stomach.
I lost it. Me and my mom were laughing about that the next day. I was like, Mom, are you a good mother tucker?
I almost told Kai about that the other day, and I was like, then I'll have to explain why it's so funny.
Exactly.
Yes.
My kids would be like, oh, because you say M. They would know.
They would know.
They would know.
Because I'm a sinful mom. Whatever.
We all are. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, Chris, and what he's a man of many trades. He sings at church. He leads worship at church. You're doing a men's Bible study right now, aren't you?
Helping, yeah.
And then we actually all go, well, Bobbi doesn't. We're going to have a talk about that.
Yeah.
We go to
small group.
We go to small
Yeah.
group.
We all go to small group. Yeah.
I know. I can't abandon my reads.
It's all right.
It's okay. We'll
But-
forgive you.
Can we just merge them and then I'd be perfectly
It might
content.
be too much.
My gosh,
We have
we'd
a
have to
pretty
have a
big
huge
space.
house.
You guys have a lot.
Oh, wait, Sarah has a really big house. I'm just playing.
Coming to it.
I'm playing.
Groups a week at your house.
Hey, in the spring
I
and
like
summer,
going. I like going other places.
know,
because
but-
I spend all day Wednesday worrying about my house being clean enough. Just
we
stuffing
could
stuff
meet
indoors.
outside. We could, like tent revivals, the old tent revivals. We could just set up a tent.
There we go.
Except last week would have been miserable.
Oh heck no, not in the no. Yeah.
That's true.
But yeah, I bet when we go, there's probably. I mean, we're not like steady goers. We just kind of started, and something really cool. You know, Chris, out of all the people in the church, you have like been after us longer than anyone. Like you have like been the most, and thank you for that.
Persistent.
You have been like the most persistent. Like you, I think, be the only person from Lincoln that has ever reached out to us inviting. Not like in a bad way. I'm saying like you tried to get us to church in the beginning, you know, when we started coming, and even small group, you always reached out and you were always persistent. So thank you. You have helped shape my faith.
That means a lot. I really appreciate that.
Oh,
Thank
that's
you.
sweet.
That's really cool.
It's funny how the Castors, I keep thinking this, and Nicole, but like all the Castors, I feel like have all, like God intended for us to have a relationship. Well, now Holiday. So sorry, Nathan, you're involved in that too. So yeah.
Well, I think something that I love about our family is it's just as long as I can remember, it's been about like bringing people in. I mean, we had people living with us at random times growing up, and I remember conversations where it's like, this is their house too, you know, while they're here. And I just love that. Like as an adult now, I'm like, okay, like, you know, we don't have the nicest house, but it's a nice house, and God has blessed us with that. So we're going to use that for people. You know, I pray every night over the house as I walk and shut lights off and stuff, and I pray, God, this is your house. You know, come be in it tonight. You know, and then just when people are there, it's like I want them to feel welcome and things like that. So that means a lot. So
well, you do a great job at it.
I appreciate it.
And it shows. You know, there's a diverse group that come.
Yeah,
and
it is.
everyone gets along great, and that's because of you guys, of course. I mean, of course, everyone's going to get along great, hopefully, but you make
group.
people feel comfortable.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
So, yeah. So, anyways, finish telling us more about you, what you do.
Sure. Yeah. So I mean, from as early as I can remember, I was drawing and, singing and figuring out goofy things, creative things. And I went to college for arts. I have a Bachelor in Fine Arts with an emphasis in painting. And so I did that. But, I always joke that you can't make money as a painter unless you're dead or maimed or something, cut your hair off or something. And so I went, after college, I went and worked at a small publishing company doing graphic design. I tried to get on as a children's book illustrator, which I'm actually really glad I didn't get into that avenue, because now I've, tried to do some illustration, and it's just not like my passion. But I got on in graphic design, and that was a pretty saturated department. And so I basically was offered a position in pretty early on in the company at doing what they were calling book trailers. So we would make trailers for these books that the authors would write, and animation and what's called motion design, which is kind of like a different form of animation. I'd always been interested in those things, but never, even in film, but never really had an outlet for that besides just shooting some skateboard videos and things like that in high school. And so I jumped in. I was like, sure, I'll do that. And Callie was a basketball coach at the time, so there was a lot of evenings I was just at home, while she was coaching and things like that. And so I just started watching as many tutorials as I could, practicing as much as I could. And in the company that we work for, we had a pretty heavy load of things we had to create each month. So I was making 14 30-second animations every month on top of all the personal learning I was doing. So I learned the skill set very quickly. And it was just a really fun time because I was learning all these new things. And then because of my personality, I was taking those into my department with all these people that were in the same boat as me, trying to learn this new skill because it was a new division. And so I was just teaching, this group of 30 people. I would learn something cool and exciting. I would take it to work the next day. And while I was doing my projects and while they were theirs, I was walking around and helping them do their projects. And it was fun just to be a part of like their growth. But then I also became a head of that department within a year, which was really cool. Yeah. God just opened that opportunity for me, and got Employee of the Year that year.
Cool.
It was fun because I didn't feel like I was doing anything that was extra from what I would have done anyway. But God just really blessed me with the opportunity to learn a new skill and to invest in a lot of people that way. And I made a bunch of really good friends there.
And I think teaching too, once you teach something, learning it and then having to turn and teach it, it's such a different type of learning.
It is, yeah.
You get so more advanced when you actually teach something, so you have to study it that much harder. Even I wouldn't say as teachers of doing this, but just being able to talk about it to other women, you have to learn. But then when you do teach it, it's a different learning ability too. You soak more in.
You have a responsibility for what you're communicating, and so I think you value it more or something. Yeah.
I did hair for 21 years, and I've taught off and on. It's a completely different way because you have to learn different learning styles and how to teach your students. You're doing it, but you have to teach them how, you have to explain it. You have to learn how to explain it and why you're doing it. And then you have to almost guess what they're going to ask you or be prepared on what questions they're going to ask you. So I think it makes you a better whatever, it makes me a better cosmetologist or barber than, when you teach it.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. So during that time, it was a lot of fun and a lot of good memories from working there. And then during that time, I'd met a guy named Brian Cates, who now is my good friend and boss with the Skit Guys.
Okay, I was that name sounds familiar.
So you guys would know him. And he directed the movie Family Camp. Super, super talented filmmaker and an even better guy, just a really kind-hearted guy. And so Brian, I barely knew him, and I was like, hey, Brian, would you watch the stuff I'm creating, and tell me if it's any good or not? Because, I didn't go to school for this. I know you did. And he did filmmaking specifically, not what I was doing, but he has the eye for it, And so he started watching stuff, and then I guess as I started getting better, he would occasionally send me Skit Guys projects, be like, hey, can you do this? Can you do this? And kind of in the meantime of all of that, I left that company, moved back here to Woodward, Callie and I did, and started working at Lincoln Avenue. So I worked at Lincoln Avenue for 2.5 years, I think, and doing music and helping with student ministry and just lots of associate pastor responsibilities, teaching and things like that. And then as well as doing some freelance Skit Guys stuff on the side. And after that, time period, they were like, hey, would you want to come full-time work for Skit Guys? And I was like, I'd love to, but I don't want to leave Woodward. And so they were like, okay, you can stay here.
Oh, wow. So you got the best of both worlds.
I really did. And it was really cool of them, to trust me to do that, because that was, long before COVID and remote working and all of that.
Yeah.
So
That's kind of the norm.
Yeah.
Now
Now
they're paying you to come back to the office.
Yeah. So it was cool. And so that's been since, if I'm remembering correctly, June of 2013, I've been with the Skit Guys.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize it had been that long.
Yeah. So that's the Skit Guys. So I've been with them. I do some freelance stuff too. But I do filmmaking, motion graphics, animation, which is motion graphics, just more of a modern term for that. But then visual effects. So that's doing things in movies that you can't shoot practically because it's too dangerous or it's too expensive, or things you just missed in the movie. Like, if, in Family Camp, there was, several shots where we had extras on set and they would look at the camera. Like, we program into their minds, don't look at the camera, because that,
can't help but
that
look
breaks and that they'll glance over at the camera for a few seconds because it's this massive thing that's moving around, and they'll glance at it. And then I have to go in and frame by frame adjust their eyes to look back the other way. So I'm tracking this eye that goes like this for a few seconds, and I have to manually
so it's
make
kind
it
of
look
tedious.
It's very tedious. Yeah.
Wow.
There was one shot I probably spent a week and a half on straight,
So
every
how many
day.
times do you have to for example, The Family Guys, how many times did you have to rewatch that movie?
I saw, by the time I started watching it in theaters, I had seen it, several times. For sure, bits and pieces of it, 20 times or whatever. But
I was about to say, 'cause that would be a lot of.
Yeah, it can get by the time you watch it, you're kind of like, oh, this is a great movie, but I've seen it a bunch of times already. So
You're quoting it.
I have it memorized.
Yeah.
I'm sleeping
Well, it's
in
fun
my
'cause
dreams.
My kids would walk in when I was working on stuff because I work at home, and so they had lines memorized already from the movie.
Not even out yet.
And he's
Yeah,
going to say
yeah.
this next.
Yeah, so don't tell anybody this before it comes to So anyway, but yeah, it's the visual effects can be very all of it. Motion graphics, visual effects can be very tedious. It's weeks of work for literally the shot I was telling about where I worked probably a week on is there's a shot in the movie where a marshmallow hits a guy in the back of the head and it's flaming, and so. Practically they can't shoot all at that once. So they put the fake marshmallow on the back of the guy's head, and a stunt guy will come in, and we have to have talks about fire and how safety and all this. And they light the deal on fire, and they're, rolling and light it on fire and step away. They get the shot, let it do its thing, put it all out and everything. Well, I have to, they decide they like the moment in the shot where they first light the marshmallow because it poofs up.
Yeah.
Well, there's a giant lighter in the shot. And so they're like, you need to get rid of this lighter. So
your job.
as for my job is
Get rid of it.
there's all these ways that I have to think of okay, so first my first ideal situation would be that the shot is not moving. So then I can use parts of other shots where the hand's not in there to mask it out. Well, they shot it with the camera going like this. So then I'm like, well, maybe I can track the shot and stabilize it so I can do the same thing I was going to do originally. And this is all really nerdy stuff, but it's the process I have to go through.
Yeah.
And basically every single thing I'm trying to do, I can't do of how I would do it because of different problems in the rest of the shot and everything. And I eventually, I literally frame by frame cut the hand out and then frame by frame move other parts of the video later on in the video.
Crazy. That's so intense.
And then I had to put in a fake spark and a fake lens flare, when light shines into the camera, it does the flare. I put those in to hide the hand where you can see the masking around it.
Wow.
So there's just like
There's so
it's
much
nerdy
more.
stuff like that it's like
For like
There's so
2
much
second
more.
for 2
clip.
seconds. Yeah.
And it'll take you what, a
It's
week
like
and a
me a
half
week to do
or
that,
whatever.
yeah,
That's crazy.
crazy.
So much more than people realize
Yeah,
when it comes
yeah.
to like editing
So much more
and
than
stuff
meets the
like
eye.
that.
Yep.
Transformers.
Yes.
And
That's
pe-
Chris.
And
That's his-
people will
that's his
come to guys
new
like
saying.
Nathan and I'd be like, hey, can you do this? It's just this.
Yeah.
Right. It's
And you're like,
It's just
it's
this.
not just this.
It won't take, it was, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I remember that story.
Yeah, no, that'll be an off-camera story. I can't speak that one.
We got to
into
keep
existence.
it PG-13
That's right.
in here.
That's right.
Y'all don't get me cussing up in
But don't let me forget to tell you guys that one.
Yeah,
remember,
I will
yeah.
remember.
I heard
When
that
we
one.
cut.
Yeah, it's good.
Okay, so you're here today to kind of talk about. Why don't you tell us what we're
Yeah,
here to
like
talk
I
about?
think it'd be fun just to have a discussion about like Christians and creativity and the arts and kind of all of that stuff. So I threw together just some questions we can talk through together. And I know as like a creative person, like when I was growing up, there wasn't really discussion on like, okay, like what do you do with the gifts that God's given you? You know, generally it's just like go be a pastor, go be a missionary. But that's not for everybody.
There's so much more. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think we can use all of our talents for God, you know?
Yeah.
Whether it be your artistic ability, like you being a good drawer, I asked Bobby, I'm like, maybe he could draw like a picture for our podcast or, whatever. And it doesn't even, I feel like there's a lot of different options with your creativity that you can use,
Yeah.
but we can
Yeah.
discuss some
And
of those.
even in non-creative ventures, we can talk about like for people that you don't feel like you're creative, you still are creative, you know? And so I think that's all of that's interesting in it. And I just hope like that, in my, sphere of influence, I can be of an encouragement to people that have, abilities to do things or want to sharpen those abilities or anything like that, just to be able to use those for God's glory. So that's kind of what I'd like to discuss. So.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sweet.
Do you
This
want me
will be
to
a
ask?
fun one.
Is this question and answer time or what?
So
On
we
this
can
little-
we can go through any of those you want to, or off. If you have questions based off of those, whatever you want to do.
I've got some that aren't on there, but I want to open it up with what you have first, and then we can dive.
I think the first question is a great starting point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's,
Because
Biblically, God is the first ultimate creator. What does this mean for Christian artists?
yeah, so this is just all around really cool to me. Not just for artists, but for all believers, is that like God is the original creator. So if you think about the first verse of the Bible, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Like that's such a short verse, but like there's so much wrapped into it.
Yeah.
It's like in the beginning, that's the beginning of time. God created the heavens, that's space, and God created the earth, that's matter. He creates all these things together in this instance of this short verse. And then like to think about all the things that come along with that is like the laws of thermodynamics and gravity and order out of chaos and just all of this stuff is just really mind-boggling. And it's all the creative process of God is like
He speaks.
he speaks and it comes into existence. Yeah.
Which is so
Yeah.
cool. Like just his breath is creative.
Yep. And so he speaks everything to existence. Then he starts like creating all these, and then not to mention, sorry, back on that, the spiritual part of reality is right. Like we're the material with the spiritual soul, but like there's things like angels that are created that like are beyond our imagination, like things covered in eyes with wings all over, and multiple faces, and things that look like dragons, and like just this spiritual reality too that like is in some way overlaid with where we are that we can't perceive.
Because we're flesh, we're spirit, we're soul. Like we're like just in us. And when I've even like researched recently, like everyone's DNA is like specific, and it's like he's so specific with it too.
Yeah.
It's so mind-boggling because our minds can't even wrap around his ability and his creativity.
Yeah. And then that creativity goes into plants and animals and light and dark. I mean, even the truth about light is like we can see each other because of light. it's like bouncing off and going into our eyes and being interpreted by our brain. Like all of that stuff is like creativity.
Yeah.
Is that God could have done it a million different ways, but he chose to do it in that way. And that's just fascinating to me. All in that short first chapter.
Well, 7 days, and the 7th day he rested.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, so you're telling me that we're just not hurling down space, and we weren't, what's like evolution where we're from all
Random chance.
Yeah, a random chance.
I had this conversation with Kai the other day, and I told him, I was like, which he believes similar to me, but we were just discussing, we like to discuss deep things, and I said, Kai, is like, if you think about, like you love to build forts, I was like, if you're just walking through the woods and you see, even if it's a crude structure, you see this thing that's put together in the shape of a teepee or whatever, and you're like, you can do one of two things. You can look at that and you can say that was put together by intelligence, even if it's crude.
Yeah.
Or you can look at it and you could say there's design and purpose to this. And it's like we look at the world around us, and that's the best evidence to me that there's a God. Is like it's like we look at the world, like your DNA, the process is
fingerprints,
like blood clotting, all these things like that was intended with a purpose, and it's creativity that drove that to it be in existence for our good and for the good of the world, and God said it was good, in the beginning, which is just so cool. One of the coolest things is when we get to man, God says, let us, Trinity there, Trinity language, let us make man in our own image. And so he goes from speaking to physically taking part in creation, which is really just like intimate, and he takes dust of the earth. And so I just, as a creative and a person who visualizes this thing in my mind, I can just see like God or Jesus' hands grabbing. I can just see him grabbing a pile of mud and start.
I think of a potter, like a clay maker,
wheel,
the potter's
potter on a wheel. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's just so cool and intimate to me. And then he's making something out of the matter he's just created in the last few days, and then he's breathing spirit into
life
it.
into it. Yeah. And then making Eve from his ribs.
Yeah.
Like that's another form of creating.
Yep.
Like taking one part, just like wood or anything that we have as natural resources, it's all here for us to be creative and to build.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. 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 And then he gives this directive to Adam and Eve. He says, be fruitful, multiply, right? So there's also there's the repopulation kind of element to that, but it's also like produce stuff.
Well, work. In the Garden of Eden, I don't remember. I'd have to look up the verse, but he talks about like working the land, or which
is subdue the earth. Is like that means control it, work it, make things from it, learn about it, and I think
it's all at your fingertips. You know what I mean? Like it's at our, under God's rule, but our discretion to live our lives out.
You're in
for
charge
his glory.
of this.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think like, so that means for us is like, as people created in the image of God, if God's creative, if God is the ultimate creator, he's the ultimate being that has imagined all of this into existence and then spoke it all into his existence, is like, we are to do that too. We're to subdue the world around us. That means, for cutting hair, you're like subduing that in a way. Like it's a silly image, but
it's
like
an art form.
You're creating order out of chaos, and you're
sometimes it's real chaotic.
And I kind of think it's cool to like speaking. This is kind of off a little bit, but even speaking goodness into life. Like our words matter.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so even we've talked about this before, speaking instead of like always being negative, if we speak positivity, that has a way of multiplying too.
So
Well, negativity multiplies too, but let's be positive.
Yeah.
Pastor Jason preached a great out of James.
Yep.
A couple weeks ago, so check that out. But I think like but for us as like we grab hold of that and we say, like, if God is this, if he's this creator, and like we want to be like him, is like that we create beauty and things that inspire and we use with those abilities he's put in us to subdue the world and even if it's not creativity in and of itself, we're we're saying, okay, we're going to do these things with excellence, and we're going to do them in ways that other people aren't even imagining, to ultimately reflect back to him.
Well, and women are just artists in the ability to create life.
Yeah.
If you think about that, a lot of people might think, well, I'm not creative. I'm not this. Well, yeah, you really are, because God created you to create.
Yeah.
And so, and even, I mean, you can't create a baby without a man. So he's a creator too. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's just really cool. This concept it's known, but it has never been brought to the forefront of my mind to think like this, which is really cool to think. God created us. God is a creator. He created us so we can create. So it's just really cool how it just is all full circle. God always brings it back.
Yeah.
And I think society almost turns you away from that instead of embracing that. It's like, no, you're supposed to do what your parents did, or you're supposed to, society has a way of pulling you back. And I don't think those were really God's intentions. He just gave you your ability to create and to move forward. But we kind of get stuck in our heads about not being capable, and it's like, no, we're all capable. We just have to have the faith to step out and do what he's called us to do, whether it be creating or whatever.
Or creativity gets switched around where it's about you rather than God.
Becomes an idol about
that's
yourself.
a common thing too.
Look what I can do.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, he gave you that ability.
So I have some questions about that in there as well, but yeah. What next? That's just such a cool concept, I think.
What can we learn from Exodus 31 about God creating, empowering, and tasking people with a skill and creative purpose?
Okay, so I'm not super familiar with this passage, so I don't want to act like I am. But Brian, my friend at Skit Guys, talked about this a few weeks ago, and I thought it was really cool because I had not come across this passage before. But in Exodus 31, and I'm going to butcher this guy's name, but there's a guy named
it's okay. We butcher our names all the time.
Bezalel and Oholiab, I think.
It's okay.
That's perfect.
We believe you.
I like it.
These guys, we'll call them Bez and Oho. I don't know, something like that.
That's good.
Bez and Oho.
So there's this really interesting passage there in Exodus 31, starting in verse 2, and it basically is saying they're talking about the temple. They're going to build the temple. And it says that God has filled this Bez guy with the Spirit of God, wisdom, understanding, and knowledge, and all manner of workmanship, design, and artistic work to do these certain things like work in gold, silver, bronze, cutting jewels, carving wood. And then he's got this other guy that's going to assist him. And that's just so cool to me that like before the Spirit of God has come into the earth to be with the believer, God sends his Spirit to be with this guy to empower him to create like God's house for the people of Israel. And I think, for us is like God has, we have the Holy Spirit now, the God that came after Jesus was here and lives inside of us as believers. But he has filled us with the ability to do things like, so all these good things that are, given to us are from God. So if you have any ability whatsoever, whether you're a mathematician or an artist, you've been filled with wisdom and understanding and knowledge, so that it could bring God glory. And I just think that's really, really cool. And empowering to us to say, okay, like God has given me this. It doesn't exist in me independent of God. It's not like I spent all this, I said that earlier in the podcast. It's like I poured into all these tutorials, well, at the end of it, no matter any of the work I did, that was God's work in me to give me, even at the very base level, to give me a mind to understand the concepts and the programs and things like that. And so I think for us as believers, we can look to a passage like that. We can say, God cares about empowering people to do even things that might seem as trivial as making a place look beautiful. And that's really cool to me.
So how do you tap into that?
So I was thinking, as you guys were speaking about that, I was thinking about the most beautiful creativity I can think of in my life is it has connection. So like, I immediately thought of when I was I think I was in the second grade, we were studying space, and I came home and I told my mom we were studying about like rockets and planets. And she took a huge cardboard box and made a rocket ship and took it up to my school. And we got our picture in the paper because it was just an elementary, school studying about space. And we were able to get in it, and she painted it. And I just thought she used her love for art and painting and creativity and made something that connected. Yeah. Like kids could go inside it, and it was like an experience.
So it was a big one.
Yeah, like a huge cardboard box. And then I even thought, like, I took lunch. I took Ayler McDonald's one day because I'm not good at packing lunch. But Sawyer Bay was sitting next to her and opened her lunchbox, and Angela had made this cool lunch for her and like had this like cute construction paper and wrote her a note in like fun marker color. And I even thought, that's using your creativity to connect with your child, because what a surprise to open your lunchbox and see your little heart-shaped sandwich with your, so like,
I need to be a better mom.
I know. That's what I'm like, man, I need to cut some cardboard and some sandwiches up. But you can use like simple daily, like the mundane tasks of life to connect. And even like Gigi, she sent a letter to somebody. When they opened it, it exploded with glitter. And she didn't think about the fact that they were going to have to vacuum all that up. But they never forgot about that letter because she was like, what's the extra I can put in this letter that's going to be fun and beautiful and So just simple little things that connect. Like even like what we were saying about the skit guys, like humorous but heartfelt. You can be creative, but if you're not really connecting with the heart, what is your art's purpose? And I think that goes back to who Jesus is like the best songs I can think of, they evoke emotion. We've talked about that. There's something about listening to just a secular pop song that might have a cool beat and you're just kind of like, okay. Yeah. But then there's a whole different experience when you listen to something that was birthed out of the purpose to connect because of a deep experience.
Yeah, and you can feel that too. Like, when something's authentic, like in the arts world, I feel like, there can be some things that are not, that pretend that they are, but real beautiful art, you can feel it.
Nathan and I listened to a Matt Maher thing recently where he was talking about hymns, because he's kind of like famous for taking old hymns and reconstructing them a little bit. And he said, I feel like I'm going to get to heaven and have so many songwriters ticked at me. Like, you took my, whatever, like just kind of joking about it. But he said like a song like It Is Well, it was written, when this guy was, he was at sea or something. Is that right? And he had just experienced a huge loss. Yes. When you sing that hymn, you can't help but, Matt Maher says, the feeling of what the atmosphere it was written in transfers with the song every time it's sung, even decades and years later.
That first verse, it's in my bathroom. It's a big, huge black and white picture.
Oh, that's
and
cool.
It says, "It is well with my soul," but it's the first verse and it's in a circle.
Peace like a river.
Yeah, peace like a
cool.
river. That song helped me through the death of my husband, because the cool thing about God is my dad got to experience his salvation experience. He got to be there when it happened. And that, I know that when I get to heaven, I'll see him. That is it is well with my soul. That's what creativity, that's what the words of that song mean to me. Is I know I can picture seeing his face when I get there, because it is well with my soul, because no matter what I've been through, no matter how hard this life is, when you step into the gates of heaven, you get to see all the people that you lost and that you love. And that is, it is well with my soul, because I am sustained by the Lord. And he's given me that peace because I know where my husband is.
Yeah. It's cool that music can get you through that.
Words, that's all I do is listen to music on my way back and forth to Enid, and I'll send you a lot of them. You're probably like, quit sending me songs.
No, I love it.
It doesn't even have to be words. Like, there's this song,
Oh yeah, you've played it before. It's
called
very emotional.
YSML, or sung by SYML. It's called Breathtaker. And literally just the beat, the first time I heard that, I was praying and I was just like bawling. And I text her and I was like, this is like a piece of heaven. And it was like just the beat, like the vibration, like the beat. There was something still when I listen to it, the other day I was in my car and I had my cousin was inside cleaning my house, and I got pulled into my garage and it was freezing out, and I put the song on and I turned my car off, of course, and I'm just leaning back and I'm crying in tears, and she comes and she knocks on the door and I'm like, you're ruining this. And she's like, okay, I was just making sure your car wasn't on, you were freaking me out. I was like, can I just pray in peace out here? But every time I listen to it, it's weird because it's God is so intentional because he can use that one song to affect on so many people's lives. And when you're younger, you listen to music and that's how you that's how you deal with stress, love. Music is such a powerful, it's so powerful but when you're younger, you use it in the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah, it can have the opposite effect on, pushing you in a certain direction.
Listening to love songs, and you're listening to love songs where it's just kind of pity me, feels bad for me. You know what I mean? Or cheater, or whatever the case may be.
Just kidding.
What they say about a country song, your grandma got thrown in jail, your dad got ran over,
and
your dog bit your friend. I don't know. You got thrown out of the bar, you lost your job. You know what I'm saying? All these negative things.
But you use it. Music is such a powerful.
What I love about the Lord is I'll have just my songs going while I'm driving, and I'll be going through something, and then a song I've never heard, an artist I've never heard, will just pop up, and it is exactly what I needed to hear. It is exactly what I needed to, and I'm like, what is this song? And then I'll add it to my library, and then I listen to it and listen to it and listen to it, and then what I love to do is I like to find who the artist is and the song, and then I go and I research, why did they write this song? What Bible verse did they get this song from? Because that's what's cool too, is I want to know why in your life did you write this song that now it's affecting my life, that the Lord sent this song to me. I love to find the backstory on why people write things and what verse it came from and what time in their life why they wrote. I just think it's cool. It just makes you connect even more at a deeper level, because knowing the artist's heart is really beautiful too.
Absolutely. Sarah, you said something that was really cool that it triggered something for me, but you said it's a little piece of heaven song. And I think of C.S. Lewis, and I'm probably going to butcher this story, but he has a story where he talks about how, hopefully I'm remembering this correctly, but I think his brother made a terrarium or something, put all these pieces of, the nature into this thing and brought it into his nursery when he's little. And he saw that and just loved it, when he's a little kid. And then something later in his life triggers that memory of this terrarium. And he talks about that feeling that you get when you feel that little bit of heaven.
Yeah.
He describes that, and it's much more elegant than I'm doing right now.
You're good.
But he describes that, and he talks about how those are actually little pieces of glory. Someday, those moments that we long for, will be manifested forever. Which is really cool to think about.
Thought. Just that tiny little feeling of nostalgia, or a good memory of like Grandma Bonnie's house, the smell that you have as a child, and you're just those peaceful feelings that.
Yeah.
That's cool.
It's cool to think about that, when you hear that note in a song that's just
wow.
This has got to be.
It just blows your mind. It's
and it hangs on for just a little bit, and then the rest of the song goes. But then to think someday we're going to experience that in its full capacity, colors we've never seen before, sounds we've
talked about that
It's going to be so cool.
I think it's cool that we're all going to be praising the Lord. That's what I'm that's why I think it's just great for us all to collectively sing a lot and praise, because we're practicing. Yeah. We need to be practicing.
And you're practicing with creativity right now, because praise doesn't exist solely with singing, right?
That's right.
It's like
Yes.
you're gonna like.
Worship.
I believe a painter is gonna paint for eternity,
Yes.
for the glory of God, and like
I hope I'm not cutting hair for eternity. Lord, just let me sing, please. Just wait. That's what he
Well, me at church, I'm up there getting down with.
She
Yeah,
is.
yeah,
yes.
I like to
You're a
move and
dancer.
groove.
So they're like, and Naomi's a dancer.
Feel
So
it.
could
like
you?
can
Yes.
feel like when, and I love it. Like when they're having, well, it's always good all the time, but there's some days when it just hits different.
Yeah.
Where you're
Anytime we
just like,
sing "What a Beautiful Name" and we get to the "You
have no rival." Yeah.
everybody's like,
I'm losing it. Yeah.
it's like,
Because
the,
it's like,
my
yeah.
most favorite
Yeah.
part.
Hey, and what's so cool? I have a question about this, but we can just discuss it right now because it has the same thing. It's like stories or like ways that you describe songs, like there are ways that you write songs. Is like, you know, like it's describing truth in a different way. It's like we can sit here and say God has no equals and he's
No rivals.
far above everybody. He's got no rivals. But when you set it to music or to a story that's compelling or whatever, and you start talking about like you have no rival, you have no equal, now and forever God you reign,
when
yours is the
you're
kingdom.
praising it as you're doing.
It's
Like
that
it's not just words.
the melody and the chord progressions,
all
like,
of that together.
Well, and it's that
And praise.
crescendo too, because you're like, yeah, because it's truth. And so you just want to scream it out because it's like, yes, he doesn't have a rival.
Yeah.
He has
Yeah.
no equals. Like his name is above every name. Like, it's like, yeah, is that what heaven's going to be like when we're singing? Are we just going to be like, yeah, you know, because it is. It's, I mean,
Yeah.
and I like to when you draw it back down and it's really pretty, but there is
Yeah.
there's certain
Those
there's several
songs.
songs where you're just like, and don't get me on stage because I'll start
Yeah.
Don't get
because I get excited. You do get excited,
Yeah.
and you do feel it. And I can't stop moving when I'm singing because it's just that's just
Yeah.
how I am.
Well, yeah, and it's praising. Like for me, like that's one of my favorite. It's so funny because I feel like before I was deep in my faith, I would like show up late. So I'm like, the music is so long, and you know, some people not at Lincoln. I'm just saying at any church, and it's like now I want to show up early because I love it. It's funny how it like changes.
Yeah.
Like how, because you know, you hear people like, oh, they sing too. I'm not saying. I'm saying.
Oh no,
We
people
get-
What
we
they've
sing
been
too
saying.
long.
it's too long. It's too loud.
No, I don't think so. Sing more.
Why is she raising her hands?
Oh, it's so funny. I got to tell you guys a story real quick. So Michael's real weird about raising his hands at church.
great.
And it is kind of awkward at first, and then you just do it. But when we went to People's Church, everyone was raising their hands, and it got Michael's hands up. But
Really?
when you're in, like, and then he was like, "How do you do it? Do you do like this, like this, like this?"
I said, it's like Talladega Nights. What do I do with my hands? What do I do?
He
with
was
my
like,
hands?
"I felt weird. I didn't know what to do with my hands."
I was like, what do I do with my hands? Do I do?
I love it.
Have you seen the memes where they're like they make fun of like praise and worship
Yeah,
people?
they're
where
like
like
the
this
TV.
is the TV tray. This is full, and they
Yeah,
make
yeah.
fun of
Raising the roof.
raising the
Yes.
roof.
Yep.
This is one
yeah.
hand. This is just it's funny.
Yeah,
I
it's
think
good.
those are great.
Somebody once told me they're like, we know that you get into worship because your right arm really gets to going. And I was like, my right arm? What am I doing with my right arm?
Yeah, you do this.
Yeah.
I like
is funny.
I go back and forth on the stage. I've
Yes,
got to
you
sit about
do.
myself.
And I know,
Yeah, yeah.
I know when you're fixing to get real, you get on your tiptoes.
I do. Yeah.
You get on, yeah. When he's
interesting.
really into
Yeah.
it, he's on his tiptoes. I'm like, oh, it's coming.
Yeah.
Here we
Oh,
go.
it's about to go down.
Here we go.
Yep.
That's
Yeah,
funny.
it's funny.
And it's so specific, like watching each one of you guys. Honk, honk. Poor Nathan. Watching each of you guys scare you, feel like it was a gun. But how each person does it differently. Like,
Yeah.
and they all have their like quirks or like their different abilities. And I feel like that goes into create, like God created you guys each differently to have your different, all be collective, of course, but everyone's different with their capabilities. But my question is, how do you tap into that? I don't know if that's on the question board, but
So how do you tap into that
your
that
creative.
creative power? I mean, for me, I love to create. So like, it's always been something that like, if I'm not doing it, I actually feel worse. Like, so I like, that's beautiful thing about having a job where I'm getting to do that every day is I'm getting to have an outlet for that. But man, like getting to play worship on Sundays is a huge one. Just being able to play music with friends or talk about like glorious things like this. Like I made a new friend this week who's a new guy at our church, and he just moved to town, and he's a musician and a singer. And so we were talking. He said, "You guys sounded so good last week," and it's like, "Thank you." And he was telling me about, he's led worship for 17 years.
Oh, wow.
And so talking about that with him was just a blessing, because he's like, like he's telling me like, when I'm playing, these are the things that, I'm thinking about God and how, how music impacts me and all this stuff. And so as a creative, that's inspiring me, because I'm like, yeah, come on, more of that, and then the same thing with you, Bobbi. You mentioned like how, mom would do things for other people. I think like serving other people with your abilities is like, I love to create things that like bring joy and humor and it's great with being with the skit guys. Like it's always fun, but like even just things that I've done with my kids to create little films and things like that.
Your thing with Kai, so
Cardboard Cadet,
that like that got some traction, and that was cool.
And it's just like that was super cool. But like for me, like what's really neat to think that like that will exist for as long as like the structure exists in the world to keep that video in the digital space. So like my grandchildren and great grandchildren, and they'll be able to experience something I made.
Oh, that's a cool thought.
That is a cool
and
thought.
get to know Kai, like if we keep going for 100 more years, like people that didn't know Kai that were related to him will be able to say, "This is my great grandfather."
That's cool
it's really cool to think about.
I've talked about that with the podcast, like eventually when we're gone and away, if the rapture's not happening soon, I'm just kidding. But our great grandkids will be able to watch it, and like that could even change their faith. Or their kids, or
What you just said is really cool. I've sang forever, and so my kids have watched me sing. And when Naomi and I really weren't talking to each other a lot, my grandmother passed away. And when she wrote out what she wanted for her funeral, when she organized what she wanted for her funeral and paid for it and all that, in her writing, it said singers, and it said Sheila will pick the songs. That's my mom. And Sheila, Nicole, and Hillary will sing. So we sang Amazing Grace was one of her favorite songs. So we sang that. We broke it up in 3 different verses and then sang in harmony, And I'll never forget, Naomi came up and she's like, "I miss you singing."
That's cool.
And I was like, wow, you don't and she's like, it's a beautiful expression of who you are. And that was like, wow. And from your adult child, that's a really awesome compliment. And it's like, and she was genuine about it. She truly, and I was like, and so she's like, she recorded it.
That's
for her, so she will always have that. So, and that's really cool. That's
cool.
the cool thing about this day and age is you can record things and keep things, and it will go on. And like she can show my grandchildren, this was your Lala when she sang at her grandma's funeral, or this is, you get your voice from her. You know what I mean? Because I don't know what they might be singers, they might not. I don't know. But how cool is that? And that was a beautiful blessing that God gave me during that time.
That's cool.
For me to know that she missed that, and that was was,
and even
beautiful to her.
It not existing into the future, that's a special thing between you and your daughter. Like I have that with Kai and Lucy and different things, but like Lucy's always like, "Hey, when I get older, can I sing with you?"
Oh,
and, they worship. I'm just like, I long for stuff like that.
Yes.
Like, please, let's sing together, and please, like remember that about me.
That is some of the most
Yes.
beautiful times is when me and my mom and sister got to sing when we were members at the First Baptist Church, and we would sing. And my sister would take a song and rearrange it to fit our voices and do different things, because she's a composer and she's a writer and all that kind of stuff. And so those are fun times. Or like when we first came to Lincoln, me and my mom were asked to sing, and that's a really those are awesome times when you get to sing with your parent that that you got that voice from, you got that talent from. And I love music because of my mom and dad. Music was always in our home. My parents were always singing. They were in a band when I grew up. They were always in choir, you know, and they instilled that in me. And so in my home, music. And then when I listened to Isaiah when he's playing his songs, like the music that he listens to is stuff that I used to listen to. You know, it's just real. It's just really cool how it just trickles down, and it's how the love of something.
We have
helps.
the 2 Christmas shows that we've done. You know, like that stuff is like treasured for me, not just because it's fun, but it's literally all of us,
Right.
as a family, doing something together,
like a great grandmother, grandchild, like everyone in between friends. You
Michael
know,
mentioned that too the other day because he went to Lincoln when he was a little kid. He went with the
he texted me and told me about this.
He like loved because he was like, you know, seeing your grandma Bonnie do it when, you know, and then seeing you guys do it. It is a legacy.
Yeah.
Like you guys.
I made a video for her birthday the other day, and it was cool because there was a video and it was marked 1991, I think. And she was singing Crown Him with Many Crowns. And it's like all the old wood paneling at the Lincoln campus and
Style.
But it's funny because she still has as much like
Her voice is gorgeous.
and ambition. She might go to the harmony sometimes,
That's
like
all right. I
instead
love
of the
that.
melody, because she just like sings. She'll pick her part and sing it strong. But like it's cool because an entire generation has grown up with that voice leading truth to them in music, and it was just cool because it was like that, and then her in her 80s, like like the video cut from that to her, you know, singing a song, and it's just treasured for sure.
Yeah, well, and like the Christmas show, it's like Callie getting to sing. He's like afraid of stuff like that, and then singing with grandparents.
Yes, she's awesome. She can sing. Yeah,
This is not fair.
Christmas concert number 3. We're bringing all y'all in.
Working on it.
Sammy's got to bust those TikTok moves out too. Her and Ayla and Lucy are going to have to bring the house down.
Well, and I think it can be discouraging to people sometimes, like not knowing what their like artistic capabilities are.
Yeah.
Because I felt like that, you know, I'm a dancer and I've danced, but you know, I can't be dancing all around Woodward. You know what I mean? They be
Down
thinking
the
I'm doing
Walmart aisle.
something dirty.
They're like, and Sarah, she grabbed me on aisle 7 with them dance moves.
That spirit moving.
I felt the spirit.
I mean, I can get jiggy with it up at church, but besides that, I ain't been going to the club. But it's hard, you know, or just not feeling like you're creative. But I feel like God gives that to all of us. Like, you know, I love designing my house and stuff like that. And so I really feel like you know, whatever you do, try to do it to the best of your ability and be as creative as you think you can, you know, and God will help you and pray on it. And
There's the verses, whatever you do it all for the glory of the Lord.
And I think it'll build your creativity. Like even like designing houses, you know, if I'm being a light to someone, you know.
But look what your house is being used for.
Yeah.
For a Bible study.
So
that was creative. God knew before you even had the plans for your home that you were going to use your home for an open door to have a women's Bible study. Yeah. See, so you created something that He's used for His glory.
Thank you.
So
I've never been like a drawer or
but you're
like,
creative
you know, like
in that.
you guys, I feel like are all creative.
We have very visual forms of creativity.
You don't want to get in this brain though when I get visual sometimes because it can go a little crazy. But it's fun because we are visual and we're we're all artists in our own way.
Well, and I feel like God calls us to be dreamers.
Yes.
And, have, you know, look forward and have visions of like what we would like to be or creativity, I feel like, is having a vision.
Yes,
you know?
yes, definitely.
Is dreaming about something and then putting it into fruition.
Bring it to fruition is beautiful. See, and so
Sarah,
you didn't even.
You are very creative in the fact that we're doing this podcast. You made the logo for it. You had the look in your mind.
Yeah,
you create the format.
It's not like I said, like I'm not drawing it out. I'm not on a computer. Well, I guess I am on a computer doing it, but you know what I mean. It's,
It's
but you're dreaming something up that like you're saying. I want to aim at the good of others and the glory of God. Yeah, and that's at the heart of
like that.
That's at the heart of like a heart that's like imaging God. It's like we're gonna bring this thing to fruition and pray that like God uses it, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we have
So cool.
a really good question about that, but like, so how can Christians balance creativity and excellence without making art an idol is one of them. Which is a great question, but like also what ways can Christians use their creative gifts to reflect God's glory? So I think like that's part of that. And like we've been talking about James in our men's Bible study, and I'd love to share just a little bit with that if you guys don't mind about just because
I guess just get.
I think it really ties in, and it's really cool. Just how like a practical book like James like can tie into that, but like the idea that this was just a profound thing to me is the as we've been studying this is like James keeps going back to putting away these different things. He calls it the double-minded man. It's like this guy that doesn't know who he is, that's got his feet in two different places, and he's looking at the world and he's looking at God, and he's not sure where he belongs. It describes him as tossed by the sea, and he looks in a mirror and doesn't
Goes away forgetting what he looks like.
Yes.
And so like, but a big thing, especially last week we talked about was do nothing from selfish ambition or vain conceit. And this is also in, I think I'm paraphrasing actually Philippians, but it's in humility, count yourselves as more significant than others. And it talks about that in James here too. But that really hit me hard last week. Was just like, man, in what we're doing, we're aiming at, and I said it just a second ago, the good of others and the glory of God in all of this. And in Galatians, it talks about it as faith lived out in working itself out in love. And so like, that's a really cool thought. And you think about like the greatest commandment, the royal law that God gave us was to love God and to love others. And so all of the other commandments fall under that. And I think creativity goes in line with that too, is to say in the arts and whatever, with what we are doing, whether it's creating a podcast or opening your home to people or being a finance person or, working at a bank or cutting hair or painting a picture, as a believer, you should aim at like, how can I use this for the good of others? And then how can I use this for the glory of God? Yes. And that's just a really cool thought. And that the verses I did a men's breakfast this morning in Philippians, it talks about, it's the do nothing for rivalry or selfish conceit, but in humility count yourselves as more significant than others. And it says, have this mind among yourselves. So it's like you want this mindset, not the other mindset where you're doing things for selfish reasons. Like I'm doing music to glorify myself, or art to glorify myself, or hair to cut, to glorify myself. But you have this mind among yourself, and it says, it goes into the whole spiel about Jesus, who was God. He was equal with God, didn't count equality with God a thing to be grasped, but instead he humbled himself like a servant, and he came and died, even, and I'm summarizing all of this to even to the point of death on the cross.
Yes.
And because of that, God has highly exalted him and given them a name that is above every name, that every knee should bow and every tongue confess that Jesus Christ is Lord. And that's really just awesome to think.
He came as a servant.
He came as a servant. And so it's like that's what I've been challenged with lately, is just like, okay, like with these things that God has given me, how do I serve? How do I serve people, and how do I serve God? And that's why I want to open my home for small groups, and that's why I want to lead worship. And of course, like there's, as all creatives and all human kind struggle with, is like there's that desire when I'm up there on stage, is like I want people to look at me and say, man, he's singing great, he's playing the guitar great, or whatever, or he does this great or that great. But like my aim is like when I can see past that, it's like, okay, like this is for the glory of God and for the good of others. And I just think if like that's the drive.
And I feel like it's so hard to master that, because I feel like when you're people that are extremely good at something, it's hard not for them to make an idol. So I feel like that has to be a constant. I mean, I feel like once you get further in your faith, you realize it. But I feel like when first, it's easy to have the abilities or be able to be like, this is me by my doing, look at me. I feel like that's a struggle for a lot of people.
Yeah,
But
that's been a huge thing in my life that I've had to, like, God's had to chip away at making that the thing that I would pursue after more than anything. Like, I used to stack that up against questions like, do I want to be a famous singer or do I want to marry this Nathan guy? Which one? Or like, do I want to be a mom or do I want to pursue being a famous singer? And then, like, thankfully the Lord was so gracious with me to be like, okay, actually, like, the coolest dreams of your life are not going to be your glory in singing, but watching your kids worship, watching your husband lead your children in joy in the car to sing a song. Like, that's actually way more beautiful, impactful for lives, and like way more fulfilling than an applause from somebody.
Yeah. Well, even with this podcast, we've all talked about how, we've worried what other people are think, or even being like, I wonder what people of the church think, or like, I hope we don't say anything wrong, or like, and we've talked about that. We never want that to be a thing. Like, we should care what God thinks. And as long as, my brother said one time, he was like, Sarah, if it changes one person's life, it was worth it.
Yeah.
And so it's real easy to worry and think and about other people and their opinions, but really the only people we should be trying to impress is God.
Absolutely. Yeah.
When a few years ago, when the Lord him and I came to, like, it came to a head, and I just sold completely out. Like, I didn't hold on to anything anymore. Chasing Rebels by Ben Fuller is a song, but this is I tell people this now when they're like, oh, it was so good to see you up on stage, or you did so good. And I'm like, and this part of its song, it says, and this freedom that I found is not a platform. God gives, it's not a platform for myself. It's a platform for him. The freedom I found in Jesus, my platform should be all about him. It should be an outward expression of an inward dying to self. And so what we need to do as humans and as creative people is, like, when I was behind the chair, that was my mission field. When I'm at home with my kids, that's my mission field. When I'm at the school teaching, that's my mission field. When we're here and doing this podcast, that's our mission field. So, and then God will use our creativity. God will use what he has gifted us with to pursue to push his platform of his freedom that we have in him. So I just think that's just another song that when I heard that, and I was like, my whole life, it's been mostly about me. And look at me when I sing, and did I sound good? And is my mom gonna be like, you messed that note, or you messed that word up? And my dad has to sit in the very back of the church because he cried the whole time. Every time we would sing, we'd be like, Dad, don't. Because if I saw my dad cry, then I would cry. But he would cry just tears of joy because not only am I, and that God gifted me with a gift, but I was singing about our Savior, and that was beautiful to him. It was, that it's just a wonderful thing when our kids sing and they sing about Jesus. And so I think a lot of times, because we're creative and because we want it to be good, my thing is, I always think, okay, is this because now I do this? Am I doing this for my glory, or am I doing it for God's glory? Like, take self out of it. And when we do that, that's when our creative abilities will excel, because he can use that to push us forward, to catapult us forward, to reach other people. I had the cutest thing. Isaiah texted me and he's like, Mom, all the basketball boys that were at church that Sunday you sang were like, your mom did such an awesome job. We can tell she loves being up there. These are 15, 16, 17-year-old boys. Like, that is huge. Like, I was like, they're even paying attention. Really? They're caring? Like, that's weird to me. So it's just cool when you take yourself out of it and you put God in the forefront and you're doing it for his glory. You're going to get 15, 16, 17-year-old boys that are even going to be like, oh, Okay. And so that's, you know what I'm saying? So it's just, it's really cool how God just works. But we have to take that platform off of ourselves and put it as a platform for Jesus.
Yeah.
Well, and like I said, we talked about this earlier, like referencing the tree of life and, you know, the fruits of the Spirit. God gave us these abilities and stuff not for us to take and eat. You know, fruit are, when you grow fruit or whatever, they're for other people. The fruit doesn't die and feed the tree.
Yeah.
You know, your fruit is for other people. It's not for you.
Yeah.
So your capabilities and your abilities, they're not used for your glory. They're used for God's glory to help and be a servant to other people.
And Jesus lived that, like if we're to image Jesus and image God, like they both, they image that out in how, like the creation story, God is creating this place to be enjoyed.
Yes.
And then like for our good and a whole universe of processes and things like that have to do with, like with us to, you know, an earth that's perfectly situated in the solar system so that we live, you know, at the right temperature to survive. And then, you know, and then Jesus comes, and just the verses I reference, he doesn't count his rightful place as God as something to be grasped, but he humbles himself. It's like he's living this thing out, and like we are to do the same. And so like what's cool about that is, like, you know, for anybody out there that's listening and they're thinking like, well, like, why would I want to do this or whatever? It's like, you're taking part in the greatest story that's ever been told, like better than any movie, better than any book, better than any song that's been written, that you get to join in.
There's no better time but now. Who did that? Was in Esther, right?
Such a time as this.
Such a time as this.
Yes.
You were created for such a time as
Yes.
this.
Yep.
I have a question. I know we're probably pretty close to time, but this is just a personal perspective question for you. And that is, so as a Christian, how do you personally decide on what is okay to, you mentioned movies. So specifically, what's okay to watch? I know there's been some movies out the last few years that have been really controversial in the world of, should a Christian watch this? So movies like Hocus Pocus, Barbie, Wicked. How do you make those decisions for you and your family?
That's a great question. So, like, there's probably a lot of people that would disagree with me on this, and I probably am, probably middle of the road kind of on this, but like, I think discernment is first of all a key in anything like this. Whatever you put into your life, it's like you have to have a discerning spirit. Hold it against God's word. I think there's the verses that's whatever things are good, just, honorable, lovely.
Think on those
things. And so I think there's that. But then there's the truth too that like I think like let's take a movie with like Wicked, because I just watched that.
Yeah.
So like there's a movie, you know, like that like there's some worldview things that I probably don't agree with in there, but like I can look at that and I can say, man, those people that are doing the movie, from the actresses singing to the people doing the set design and costume design, they are doing what God created them to do. They are so good at it. And like that shows in the movie, and it shows in the awards they're winning, you know, they're nominated for, things like that. And so I can look at that and I can say, no glory to Ariana Grande for her beautiful voice, but all glory to God.
Yes.
You know, and I can say, like, even though she may not, I don't know her, even though she may not like give glory to God with what she's doing, she still is.
Yes.
Yeah.
By
She
by
still
using
is.
it.
She
And
still
maybe
is.
one day she will.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that could be our hope and prayer for her. And I think what's so cool though is that like, in doing something with excellence like that, people are still ascribing God the glory that he deserves. And there's times when that can get wonky.
Yeah.
It's like you can say like, oh, you know, Kid Rock singing this song or whatever, like, but yeah, there's times where that crosses, you know, and gets strange. But like, I think like being able to be a person that like, you know, there's a lot of the Christian world that like when something doesn't 100% line up with their theology, as they say, oh no, this is bad, whatever. And like, I just don't buy that 100%. As I think you can watch and enjoy, like, and this is probably a terrible example, but one of my favorite shows that I've been watching back through, just I work from home site, and the work I do, I can kind of play stuff in the background. I've been watching 24, Jack Bauer and Is, you know,
Never
like
heard of that.
it's
yeah.
a great
It's a
show.
good, yeah.
Really great show. It's very bloody. It's very like rough and dark. But like I can watch that and like it doesn't bother my spirit.
Yeah.
Like the Callie on the other hand, like she can't go to sleep after watching it.
Yeah.
Like I can watch Jack Bauer torture somebody and I fall asleep like a baby.
Little angel.
But here's the thing: is what's really cool is if you can learn in your mind to say, okay, like I'm going to look at things like this. I'm going to find the gospel truth in it, and then I'm also going to like be able to discern what is untrue about it. So I can watch 24 and I can go, like Jack Bauer in a way is like this character that institutes righteous justice on the people who deserve it, and he doesn't do it in the right way. Obviously, it's a broken example.
Yes.
But like Jesus someday will execute perfect judgment on the world and on us, and it'll be right. Nobody will be able to argue with it.
Yep.
Nobody will be able to say you did this wrong. You did this. Like it's going to be what it is. And I did this with when I was a youth minister. I would do this. We did in the summer. We would watch movies together and we would critique the worldview. We did this with Happy Feet. So like really fun movie. The music's awesome in it, but then you get this underlying theme, and every movie, every book, every music communicates an idea to you. And so with Happy Feet, you get this underlying undertone of like there's these older religious penguins that like they're stuck in their ways, they're not understanding the world correctly, and then you get these happy-go-lucky penguins that, you know, they got the truth and they're gonna, you know, go and set everybody free with the truth. It's like, well, that's a really cute story, but like there's this dangerous worldview that you have to be aware of that's under there, is that like religion is stuffy and it holds people back from being who they truly are. Like that's not the case. Religion free, like a true religion, Christianity, belief in Jesus Christ, following him, frees you from being stuck where you are.
Yes.
And so like we talk about that with the youth, and we could say, like, this is a great movie. Enjoy it. Enjoy the music. The music's great in it.
Yes.
But be aware that you're being communicated an idea, and you have to know how to like take that in your mind and set it aside and say, this is a really fun movie. And these people did a great job with it, but this is where I disagree.
Yeah.
I call that chewing up the meat and spitting out the bones.
Yeah.
And then you know, there's like Batman, like, you know, like we watched the Batman movie. It's like, okay, Batman, he's the guy that institutes justice, you know, and then you have the Joker, who's this worldview of like relativism, where it's like all truth is whatever you want to make it. And then you have Two-Face, and he's these two, like, he doesn't know who he is, you know. And so like you can look at everything like that. You can say, you know, analyze it in that way and say, okay, I'm going to believe this part because it's good and true, and this part, like, you know, I don't know.
Well, so much stuff mimics the Bible too.
It does.
Like so many movies mimic the Bible, even maybe not purposefully, but
Because it's the best story.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
the best
it's
story.
true.
So
Everybody wants a savior that's going to come and save the day.
but isn't
In
that
an
crazy? They
unexpected,
don't want
humble way.
they don't
to
want
believe the Bible, but there's good and evil in everything. If you look at it, there is a, you know, it's a protagonist and an antagonist.
Yeah.
There's the bad guy, the good guy. You know what I'm saying?
And the unexpected hero.
And the unexpected hero comes out of there. Yeah.
And good should triumph over
Yeah.
evil.
Sure,
You know,
yes,
like
yeah.
that's all from Christianity.
exactly the root. And I also think you can, like earlier when you were talking about, like, I love your viewpoint on all that, because I feel like when you start telling kids they can't watch certain things because of what, you're not giving them the choice to be able to discern that, you know, tell them how, you know,
Right, there's got to be some protection of
There's got to be some
innocence.
protection of innocence, but also I feel like when parents do the extreme and be like, you're only watching this, they get to an age and they're like,
Breeds rebellion.
yeah, it breeds rebellion, rather than sitting down with your child, watching with them and explaining it to them, them going off by themselves, watching it by themselves, and then not having you there to be like, well, that's not necessarily right. Like, you know, let's keep
And
it.
isn't that a skill you want your kids to have, like
Yeah.
when they leave you, to say, like, I can look at something and discern whether or not, like, this agrees
True.
with
Yeah.
what I believe. And, like, that's what I want my kids to do. Is, like, there's things we shield them from now because we know them.
Yeah.
Like, we know, like, Kai, he doesn't want to watch 24. Like, he's very interested in what's happening, but the
if
fact
he
that it's
saw it, it
bloody,
wouldn't
he would
be
not
good.
like it.
Well, and age appropriate.
And
you
age
know what I mean?
appropriate, yeah. And then there's things where, like, there's some shows that have there's been some shows on the Disney app that we're like, like, why'd you put that in there? And so we tell the kids, like, hey, this is happening. This is what these two characters, they're trying to get you to be okay with.
Yeah.
And I want you to know it's there, and I want you can watch this and enjoy it, but know that's there. And if we have any questions about it, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
No, like I just don't have a problem with that.
I was the child that you can't watch this. I mean, I love Stone Temple Pilots, absolute one of my favorite groups of all times. And I was listening to that CD on a Sunday morning, and my mom literally opened up the CD player and went whack on my dresser, and everyone went, and I went,
Yeah.
and I hid. And then I loved Ozzy Osbourne.
Ozzy's a great singer.
Yes. And I hid his CD underneath my mattress. So here, because my parents were so strict, and I love my parents, and they have come back and they have apologized to me and my brother and sister. I mean, but they did what they did their best
they thought,
with what they had and what they knew. Way better than their parents and all that stuff. But if they would have just been like, and what's crazy is my dad knows every song and every word to Ozzy Osbourne. You know what I'm saying? Like all these, and I'm like, why didn't you just let me enjoy that and be like, hey, on Sunday mornings, we're just going to listen to praise and worship music. And I don't want you to listen to
or
that.
just even, this is the message that's coming to you from Ozzy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just so you know.
Yeah.
But, and this is what's funny is like probably 10 years ago for Christmas, my sister drew my name, and guess what she got me? Stone Temple Pilots.
Like,
She's like, let's bring this back.
And she was looking at my mom and dad, and I was like,
Yeah.
That reminds me of when Carmel Hogue and Mom made a mixed CD of like all their favorite like AC/DC songs and whatever, and they wrote with a Sharpie on it, Jason's greatest sermon. So none of the kids would listen to it.
Hey, in all honesty, though,
But I would listen to those, Jason, if you hear that. I would have.
in all honesty, though, our parents probably are a reason we have the view. Like they were pretty open about stuff.
Mom was like, okay, guys. She took us to Blockbuster or whatever, and she's like, I'm about to show you the greatest movie of all time. I remember her telling us about it, and we come home and watch it, and it was Grease. And I mean, I was like 5
And
or
after
younger.
you know about that as an adult, you're like,
I know. I was like, I don't know
what did
that
they
I
just
would
say
be
in that
okay
song?
with
My parents took me to Pretty Woman. Like all of her 3 kids.
so about the hooker.
I got to
The
go.
only kids in there.
My parents let me go to that because
Yeah, but you're older than me. I was
no.
probably
I was in junior high or high school.
Watch this.
And my mom, we had a friend, Monica Mullins. She was one of my parents' Sunday school kids, and would come to our house. They called us the Loud Family. Her and her brother would come over and just watch us because they're like, you guys are better than TV. Like they just loved watching us. And I remember she bought me the brown and white polka dotted outfit. That Julia Roberts wore at the races. Yeah.
Oh, yes.
where she's digging the holes in.
Yes.
And
Whatever it's
so,
called.
but I remember her going to my mom and dad and being like, okay, there is one scene, but I really want to take her to this. This is something that her and I can, and they allowed it, but they did talk to me about the scene. And then, I got to wear the outfit and everything. So it's a really cool, it's a really cool thing. But she knew because my parents are the biggest movie buffs, and they're like, they quote movie quotes. They love watching movies. That's just our thing at our house. Even now, when we all get together, we play cards and we have fun and we eat and this and that. But at the end of the night, we put in a movie or we watch a movie. And so she knew that was special to us. But it was really cool that's how she wanted to do something special with me. And so she bought me the outfit and she took me to the movie. So it's just like, and she's a Christian woman. And so it's just really cool.
I love that.
Yeah, it was a really good, and it's a special thing that I'll always remember.
Yeah.
So when I watch that movie, even though it was racing and kind of, whatever, it's still a great movie, but it reminds me of, someone took the time to buy me an outfit and asked
take
my
you
parents
to
if they could, and she took me to that. So it was just,
That's so cool.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
That's what my top 2 favorite movies is Wedding Singer, Adam Sandler. I love.
That's one of my
and
top 2.
then Crazy Stupid Love, Steve Carell. And I told Nathan the other day, because we watched that movie, I'm like, I wish more Christian films were like this, because there's some really, like, skit guys do a great job at bringing that content to the Christian world, because like Crazy Stupid Love, like the storyline, without giving it away, is like a guy that's like going through his life, everything's seemingly fine, and then boom, all of a sudden his wife at dinner is like, I want a divorce, I slept with someone else, so it's like a real life thing.
Yes.
And the way that Steve Carell, he starts going to the bar, connects with a womanizer guy who basically helps him woo his wife back. And there's a whole plot twist in there. But it's a beautiful, Dr. Pennington actually was like, if you've never seen this movie and you're a writer, like a songwriter, he was like, it is one of the best written movies of all time because how all the characters, how each one, like the bad guy, the womanizer guy, actually learns from the steady father, but the steady father learns from the womanizer to woo his wife back. And there are all these like beautiful attributes in their own life of what's going on in their own lives. They learn from one another and they become better after it. And so I just love that movie. But I also, Wedding Singer, I really love most Adam Sandler movies.
Me too.
We've been praying for Adam.
Yes, we have.
Bobbi.
We pray
Like,
for Adam.
I want him to be in heaven because, like, he's the
We just want to laugh all day long with him.
To me, like, I love that he's always had this theme of, like, making fun of the person, like, the mean guy in the films.
Yes.
Are always, like, the, you know, like...
likable, like... popular.
Yes, and he's like the underdog that like sticks
the underdog's
up
my
for.
thing.
And that's a gospel theme.
Yes.
Yes,
You know,
yes,
that's a gospel
yes.
theme.
And, like
It is.
little hints of like the gospel in some of the ways that he handles situations in his movie. And I'm like, he had to have had really cool parents.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
to learn like how like that one line where he's like, your wife left you at the altar, and he's like, yeah, my parents died when I was 7. You want to talk about that?
too? Yeah.
Or he's like, I'm going to grab a beer, and he's like, yeah, drink and drive yourself home.
Yeah.
You know, like, he kind of puts down the arrogant people
Yeah.
in a really
Humbles
like,
them. He humbles them.
Yeah.
he does.
And like just like I feel like his characters, a lot of times the hero characters are very pure and innocent.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like even in like a Wedding Singer, like he's the guy that wants to do marriage right.
Yeah.
Like he wants to commit to a person and love that person and serve them. I mean, even that last little song he sings, like it's about that,
Yes.
you know, and it's like,
Yeah.
that's
Growing
beautiful.
old with
And
someone.
even
Yes.
if you're a believer and you struggle with some of the other content in the film, that's fair. Whatever your spirit kind of,
Yeah.
the spirit leads you to do and protect yourself from. But like, if you can learn to see those things and say, okay, like I can enjoy laughing with somebody. I can enjoy a beautiful story, even if it's not a like one that's specifically created to evangelize people or whatever. And I can draw like beautiful truths from that. And then I can hold back on the things, you know,
Yeah.
that I don't.
Well, like the song
with.
that I Want to Grow Old With You, like you're saying, it's painting a picture of a marriage that lasts forever,
Yes.
Yeah,
which is what
yeah.
we're called to do, commit to that person and stay with them, better or worse. But his personal life actually reflects that.
Exactly,
Like
yeah.
he is married to his wife, Jackie. They've been together for however long. And then he, you know, and I don't know him personally, but
Sure.
like from
You
what
feel
I
like
can
you do.
see,
He seems like a humble
the things
guy.
that I saw a thing that said like what he gives to, like what he makes and what he donates
Yes.
to is
Yes.
like, just again, Adam.
Maybe
I
he'll
wanna
watch
be your friend.
this.
You're just close.
Yes, we're so close.
Yeah.
And I think your guys' family, and we'll kind of close on this, but like your family does a great like way of representing that, like of not being judgmental or I don't know. I've just like the more I've got to know you guys, like I've said before, like you have this view of how you think people will be. And it's like your mom did and dad did such a good job raising you that you can see both sides and like, you know, like you said, you know, your mom let you experience things and she helped you guys discern it or you were able to discern it. And so that makes you not judgmental or it has made like special qualities about you guys. It's really awesome. I didn't put that in words
I
very
gotta
well.
say a couple cool
thank
things
you.
about mom real quick.
Okay, yeah,
So,
she always gets like at least
real
a
quick.
minute in every single
Because-
episode.
because I think this is cool. So one time I think I was griping about something. I was being kind of pharisaical, maybe a little bit about somebody. And she said, if it wasn't for the grace of God, you'd be there too. And I was like, man, that hit me hard. You know, it hit me hard. And then she told us when we got older, and this was one of my questions as well, I think, but she said it was about praying for the right things as you are creative. She said that she prayed for all of us, Daniel, Bobbi, and I, that we would not succeed unless we gave God the glory in the things that we did.
That everything
And
we
like-
touch would prosper unless we were not giving the Lord glory,
That's
that he
a
would
great
take it
thing to
away.
pray
What a
for.
thing to pray for your family is like don't let them do well unless they're giving God the glory. It's like that's a hard prayer to pray. It's like, because you as a parent, you want your, like, I know now as a parent, it's like, that'd be really hard for me to pray that my kids just would go through really tough things
But
unless
she
they're
has
giving
a lot of faith and a lot of trust in the Lord,
But
because
that's
she
a
knew
prayer
that
of
he would
love too.
Yeah, he would
really.
He would take you out of that and put you in something that you needed to be in.
Yeah.
Which would save
So-
could save your soul.
Exactly. And I'm thankful for that now. And
So much wisdom.
Yeah. A lot of wisdom and a lot of fun too.
Yeah, lots of fun.
She's special.
Without Daniel, our
Now I
lives
know
would
why
have been
you're her
really
favorite.
boring.
Yeah. I wish you guys have to have Daniel on sometime.
Yeah, we
He would be
do.
really good.
We need to have old Brad up on here, Sheila, Daniel. We could really up our views, you know? I'm just kidding.
Well, thank you so much, Chris.
Thank you, guys.
for
It's been a
coming.
blessing to be here.
And we hope to have you back on. You know, we're always whatever we want to talk about. You never know, because Nicole's been writing down, journaling, or like things that we want to discuss, because there's a lot of different things that we can discuss. That
Yeah.
It's like I said,
Endless.
I got something to say. I got a
something
lot
to
of
say.
somethings to say.
We just need to get Russell Brand on here next. He's our
we're
next
working
I
guest.
want to meet that guy so bad.
I know.
We're working
He's been
on it.
visiting random churches in America. Like, just come on down to Lincoln.
That's right.
Russell, you'd love
okay.
it.
Here it is.
go,
What
Russell.
if each one of us prays that happened?
All right.
Power of prayer. Let's see.
Hey, and everyone listening,
Yes.
let's
Yeah,
pray.
let's all pray. He just comes to Lincoln and he goes, "This worship team is all to crap."
That's like Simon Cowell.
Oh, dang it. Oh, darn it. Sorry.
I think
Russell says a lot more like
Elegant.
well, he's very well spoken.
Yeah.
But he's a lot like I don't know what you would, I don't even know how you characterize.
We're gonna
Yeah.
find out
Anyway,
in person.
he's cool.
Yeah, we're
He's
going
cool.
to find out. We're
Him
going
and
to hear
Adam
him real
Sandler,
soon.
We're gonna fly
Yep.
them in.
Fly me in.
Yes. Rob Schneider. Like, we got a lot on the list.
well, I pray for Marlon Wayans because I just want to meet him because I love me some Wayans brothers because they're hilarious, and sister. But I grew up with that. That's my era. I'm speaking my age now, and so yeah, I would love for him to come on.
Put him on the list.
Put them on the list. Okay,
Yes,
you guys.
please.
Well, thank you for tuning in to Found and Free. We'll see you next week. We love
See
you.
ya.
Bye.
Man.